Hi guys, this is Michael from the Board Games Chronicle. Today I have for you a preview video for Race to Berlin, a second edition of a great game by Krzysztof Dytczak, which will hit the Game Found pretty soon and will be published by the Portal Games. In this material I would like to tell you a bit about the game mechanics, what's the background of this, a bit about the campaign and the characteristics. I will most probably create the second material in which I will show you how to play and the actual example of play. So, let's start from the beginning. A Race to Berlin, this is the game for 2 players, which will show us the last months of the Second World War. Actually, between December 1944 and May 1945. We'll have 2 players, as I told you, and one of them will be controlling the Western Allies and the German troops fighting on the Eastern Front opposing the Soviets. The other player will be controlling the Red Army in the east and also the German forces fighting on the Western Front. You might think, okay, this concept seems similar and I have already seen this in some of the games. Yes, in actually 2023, a game Downfall of the Third Reich by GMT Games, designed by John Butterfield and Chad Jensen, was published. So you can see that the topic and approach is very interesting and well received in the industry. The first edition of the Race to Berlin by Krzysztof Dytczak was published, I believe, in 2015, and now after 10 years we are getting the second edition. I'm so glad that Portal Games is joining the War Games publishers. You know, Portal Games is mainly known for the games connected to Euro games, action games, and so on. Now we will get also one of the war game titles published by them, which is not surprising because Ignacy, who is founder of the Portal Games, is a huge fan of the war games, and I'm really glad that they will try also do some of this war game stuff via the company. So this is the background of the game. Now let me tell a bit about the main game concepts. First and foremost, regarding the game concepts, we'll have 3 rounds. They are marked here at the top. The first round will be started by Soviets. The second round will be started by the Western Allies. The third round will be started by whoever have more victory points. We have, as I told you, 2 players. They will control both Allied forces, whether it's Western Allies or Eastern Allies, and Germans. This will be pretty interesting because you would like to prevent your allies reaching Berlin too quickly, and you would like on your own to push as much as possible towards the center of Germany. Each player simply controls 2 factions, you can say. We have 3 rounds. Each of them will be, I would say, covering 2 months around. So December, January 1st round, February, March 2nd round, April, May the last final round. And this is how it will play. Now, what are the victory conditions for this game? There are a couple of them. First of all, you would like to conquer the Berlin. It is depicted here, but it also has its special small map. I will tell you a little about this when we talk about the components and the mechanics. So, if you conquer the Berlin, you automatically win. The other way to win is to get the other player to reduce their cube supply. There's 18 cubes which will be used for various actions, to reduce this to 0. So they simply cannot do anything. Their logistics, their capability, their organization is simply so diminished that they cannot continue the war. And the third possible condition to win this game, if we end the game at the end of turn 3, the Berlin is not conquered, we'll check the victory points. There are special victory points markers for both sides, and those victory markers are actually connected to the spaces on the map. For the Soviets, it will be Königsberg, it will be Breslau, it will be Vienna, and it will be Budapest. For the Western Allies, it will be Milano, it will be Stuttgart, Essen, and Hamburg. So if the game does not finish in automatic victory, you will simply count the number of victory points. Whoever has more victory points wins. What will happen when we have a draw? Simply both sides share victory. I like this solution because in the end it should be a cooperation and alliance against Nazis. But of course it was kind of a run too. One thing which I would like to draw your attention to, which maybe I was aware, but I was not picturing this to myself, is the situation in December 1944, which we can see here. The main thing is that both Western Allies and Eastern Allies are more or less similar, distance from Berlin. Because the Western armies were already here at Rhine, and the Eastern, especially in Poland here, they were still on Vistula River, so far away. In the south, they progressed the most. They were at the footsteps of Budapest. And in the south, on this front, they were reaching the Pad Valley. So these are the main game concepts and victory conditions. I believe now it's good time to jump to tell you a little more about the components. Okay, let us talk now a bit about components. One thing which I would like to call out is the beautiful and informative rulebook, which we will get with a new edition. It's not only thematic, but it contains all the important information. And here on the page 6-7, we have very nicely presented all the components. I really would like to call it out. It was not like this in the first edition. It's much improved. So we'll have one rule book, as I told you. We'll have main board. We'll talk about the board in a moment. We'll have a separate Berlin board. There is a round marker at the top of the board, and there will be fortifications, which you can see here. Then we have set of components for each of the players. We have frontline markers, you can see them. And honestly, guys, I love area control games, and here in this game we will be able to mark as we take the area, and we will be moving the front markers. It's simply cool, and I love this mechanic. We'll have logistic blocks. Each side will have various logistic blocks. They are valued from 2 to 5, and there is 2 of them. So you can see the logistic blocks. They are core of the game. You will be placing them on the map, hidden from your opponent, and then you will be activating them in order to do the actions during the action phase. In order to do the actions, you will be using the action cubes, and you will be assigning them to particular logistic blocks. The capacity of a block to do the actions equals its number. So the higher the number, the more actions the block will be able to do, or enable the units which are with the block to perform. Then you will have dice, a custom dice, very nicely printed, also cool stuff. This is really nicely done. Then we have the units, the actual units, and we have units, military tokens from both sides, so Allied and East German front, Soviet and West German front. Let's have a look at them. Let me break a couple of them. So, as you can see, these are the Allied forces. So in this case, First Armée Française. These are the German units fighting on the Eastern Front. So actually they are controlled by the Western Allies. For example, 2 Panzer Armee. When you have the Eastern side allies like 3rd Ukrainsky Front, and also the Germans fighting on the Western Front, like in this case 19th Army. We have also some very nice, panzer armies like this one, with tanks. Each and every silhouette is different, so it's easy, to identify them. One thing which I would like to draw your attention to is that The number of replacements, both material and in men, for the Western and Eastern allies was so huge at this phase of the war that you cannot kill or you cannot easily destroy those markers. Even if they lose the battle, they will not lose any capacity. However, for Germans, they have limited resources. So if they lose and they have 4 steps, you will be moving this counter like this, showing just like in the block games what's the capacity of it and what's the strength. When you reach 1 and you get a hit, you will be removing this from the map, which of course makes sense. They have a limited number of replacements, and this is exactly how the tokens are created. And yeah, it reflects the situation at the end of the war. Then we'll have a special action tokens, actually cards, both for Allied forces and Germans. And we have them here. We'll discuss them later. They mainly increase the value of the attack. They can help with the reroll of the dice, and they can also execute the counter attack by the Germans, due to which they lose some strength, but they do not, yield the position. If you look at the cards of both sides, they are asymmetric. You see 3 tanks here and 1 logistic, and you see 2 planes here and 2 logistics. Also, the German cards are different, so this is a nice asymmetry in this area. Last but not least, we have, of course, the victory points markers. I was showing them to you. These are the Allied ones. We have the Soviet ones, and we also will have 2 player aids, which will help you with the game. At the front of the player aids, you will have some information about special units. There are 2 special units: 6 SS Panzer Armie and Jugoslavianskaya Armia. And then inside you have a very detailed description of a combat sequence, all the steps, also with cards being played, and what the cards means. This is very handy, so you do not need to look in the rulebook. After several battles, it will be automatically natural. The last thing is the description of the Berlin and how the attack on Berlin takes place. So these are the main components. Being with components, let me also add a couple of words about the map. So the map is area controlled. You see the areas here, and each area has the number, so it's easily to identify. The area can have a fortification with a let's say strong fortification. I believe it has some name. A major fortification. This will be regular fortifications, and major fortifications will be turning into the improved position. So once they are reduced, they only give 1 point of value to the defense. This is the defense value. Other things which we can see in the areas are those triangles. They show how difficult the terrain is. 1 yellow means +1 to defense. 2 on the red means +2 to defense of defending armies there. The third thing which we can see are the rivers. These are the rivers at the borders between the areas. So for example, if we attack via River Po from here to here, those guys will have +1 for us crossing the river, +1 for this difficult terrain, and +2 for those fortifications. So at the beginning of the fight they have +4, and because they have also the unit here, which gives 1 strength, they have automatically 5 strength without any logistical blocks support. What else do we see on the map? We see also the logistic centers, and these are the supply centers. The blue ones are for the Western Allies, the red ones are for the Soviets, the black ones are for the Germans. The Germans have a lot of supply sources, and still, if you cut off the Germans from the supply source, for example, you do not conquer this area, but you go here, the area automatically turns to your ownership and the units are being destroyed. Okay, one thing to tell you about the Berlin. Those two areas 31, 32, as you can see, are reflected here and show that the Soviets can enter from 31 to this part of Berlin. So from here, from 32 to this part of Berlin, Western Allies can enter from 31 here and from 32 here. And then they will need to attack the center of Berlin. I'm quickly looking on the map, but I think I discussed all the important elements of the components. So let me also briefly tell you about the setup. You can see that the front markers are marked here on the borders, so you know exactly where to put them. The armies are shown here, and because each and every counter has a different graphics, it's very easy visually to mark them here. Similar thing was done for the Germans. You can see their markers here. I like how easy the setup for this game is and how quickly you can do. The same for fortification, it's marked here. When it's destroyed, of course, you remove it and you move the units, but at the beginning of the game, very quick to set up. The frontline markers are here, the units are marked here, the fortifications are marked here. So this is really great. Okay, let's pause now for a bit and we will talk about the sequence of play. Okay, let us talk now about the sequence of play. This is nicely described in the rulebook on the page 10. As you can see, we'll have 3 main phases within each round and we'll have 3 rounds, as I told you earlier. Within the round, we'll have first of all logistic phase. During the logistic phase, each side will be setting up their logistic tokens hidden from the opponents. We'll start from the first player. In round 1, the first player are the Soviets, and they will be putting 1 logistic block with their unit. The logistic block always have to be with a unit. Then 1 block will be put by the Americans, so the Western Allies, and so on, so forth. That way, you are creating your plans for the future round. Sorry for this. And also bluffing a bit, because you might take also the logistic block of value 2, and as the opponent is not seeing the back of it, they will not know what you're planning. So you will be setting them up like this, and during the logistic phase you should set up all your blocks. Let us do this quickly. You will not be able to have enough blocks to put them in each and every possible area. This is intentional. You need to really think about your forces and where you would like to position them. There are like 13 areas, and there are, of course, only 8 tokens. One thing which you can do, you can put the logistic blocks with your units. By this I mean your allied troops, or you can put them also with your Germans, which you are control, like we did here, or like we did here and here and here. Yeah, just planning this a bit. This is not the perfect setup, but what I wanted to present to you, how the map will look like after the logistic phase. Then, after the logistic phase, we have the action phase. Action phase will be the core of the game. During the action phase, you will be taking the actions by activating your logistic blocks, spending the action cubes, and doing one of the 3 things: attack, movement, or cleanup. The third phase, once the action phase is finished, will be the strategic movement phase. In this phase, you will be able to move 1 of your own units. By this I mean allied units, so 1 of those units through the controlled areas to another area, or you will be able to, move 1 of your controlled Germans, also in strategic way, so on the far distances, through the controlled areas. There's one restriction: there can be only 3 units maximum on each area, so you need to pay attention to this. So just to remember, 3 rounds in each of the rounds, 3 phases. So first of all, logistics phase, then you have action phase, and then you have strategic movement phase. If at the end of a third round, third phase, there is no victory, we look at victory points. Now, I would like to focus now a bit on the action phase, because action phase is the heart of the game. During this phase, each player will be able to make one of the 3 actions. The first action, the most, let's say, obvious one, will be attack. The second will be movement, and the third will be cleanup. Let me tell you a bit about those actions. I will briefly touch them. I will show the details in example of play, because I think example of play will be much more informative to you guys and will bring more interesting stuff. So first of all, attack. And the attack sequence we have very nicely described here, and we shall follow it. First thing, who is the first moving in the turn? It's of course the first person as per the round number. In round 1, Soviets, so we'll move now with the Soviets. In round 2, Americans, and then whoever has the higher victory points number. So let's do it that way. The attacker chooses an area with one of the logistic blocks from which they will attack. Let us assume that we will attack from here with this logistic block. Then we need to select the target enemy area adjacent to area launching the attack. Let's assume we are attacking here, so from here to here. The attacker will decide now how many cubes he will allocate here. He can allocate 1 or 2 cubes. If he allocates 1 cube, his attack strength will be equal to the value of the block. If he allocates 2 cubes, his attack strength will be equal double the value of a block. But be careful, once the number of cubes next to the logistic block is equal to its number, the block gets exhausted and cannot be used during this round. So you can have fewer stronger actions or more actions which will be a bit weaker. Let's say that we want really to push here and push harder, so we will make this as a double value. Now, the defender decides about possible defenses. First of all, if we would have here this logistic block, it automatically would take part in the defense. If a logistic block is adjacent to the area being attacked and there is a unit there, he can support them. Let us say that the Western allies does not want to give up too easily this area and they want to defend. They automatically put 1 cube here as a defense. What do we do now? We reveal the logistic blocks if any of them were standing, because once we reveal them during the game later on, they will be already revealed for till they are removed. So we have following situation. We have here 10 strength, and for those guys defending, we calculate their strength. We have military unit, which is 1 point. We have river, which is 2nd point. And we have logistic block of value 3 supporting here, which is additional 3, 5. So we have 10 here and 5 here. Now it's possible to play the cards. You can play the cards as attacker. You can play logistics to double your strength, but only if you put 1 cube, so we can't play it. You can play tanks or airplanes, and this adds additional strength equal to the number of cubes you just played, so we can potentially add here too, but not with those of course, but we don't want to do this. Then we will be rolling. Each player will roll 2 dice, and interestingly, you do not look at the sum, but you deduct the lower number from higher number. So we have 10 here and we have 5 here. The possible differences are from 0, like if you have 2 same numbers, up to 5 if you have 6 and 1. So a huge possibility that actually the Soviets will win. Let me roll for the Germans 6 and 2, so their strength is 5 plus roll 9, their strength is 10 plus 2, 12, 12 to 9, that means the defeat. What happens now? There are two options. If there is a still not used counter-attack card by the Germans, and they have a logistic block which was taking part in the combat is fresh, they can play it. They can put one additional cube here. They can take one hit for the lost battle and one for counterattack, and nothing will happen. If they don't want to do this, or maybe the card is not available at this moment in time, they can simply retreat. They first of all take one hit, and they can retreat to any areas which are adjacent. I would move that way. Now, the Soviets have option of advancing and then taking this area, and they will do it. We'll move the front and place here. And you see, if you are not moving evenly, you will start using more and more of those front markers. If you run out of them, you attack and want to advance, you will be losing your cubes. I will not be going into details now, but enough to say is that you cannot push too much in one area because you will simply get not enough of those front markers. And in my first play of this game, I actually ended like this with the Americans and British forces. Did a nice ride to Vienna, but then didn't have enough, those front markers to push here. Yeah, so that was error. So action phase, example of the first action, attack. The second possible action is move. For move, you do not use the cubes. How do you move? You can move the unit from one area you control to another area you control. And you always control areas behind the front, as Soviets to the east, as Americans and UK troops to the west, and as Germans here. So this is possible to move from here to here, for example, from here to here. There is no restriction to move this one hex. If you would like to move the logistic block, sorry, these guys are not standing in the right place because there is no unit here. They always have to be with a unit. So if you would like to move a logistic block, you need to move them with a unit. So for example, if you like to move this logistic block here or here, they need to move together. Or there is a possibility that there is already a unit there, so you just can move the logistic block like here. That means that during the game you can reposition your forces a bit and be able to simply to attack in different area. So attack, movement, and the third thing is cleanup. For a cleanup, you simply take the block from the map with all the cubes, and that's all. When would you like to do it? When your block is exhausted. Because if there's an exhausted block like this here and we have a block here and there's attack from here to here, you cannot support with this block because there's exhausted block. And also to drive the end of the round. When the round ends, when one player took all of the logistic blocks of the map, then the round will end. We will move to the strategic phase. And then we will move progress with next round. Okay, that was the sequence of play. Just a reminder, 3 rounds. In each of the rounds we have 3 phases: the logistic phase, the action phase, and the strategic movement phase. In action phase, 3 actions to do: attack, move, cleanup. That's the sequence of play. Okay guys, that's the end of a preview of Race to Berlin, a game by Krzysztof Dytczak, the second edition of this game, which will hit GameFund in April 2025 and will be published by the Portal Games. I hope you like this quick preview. I will definitely also do the example of play because I believe it's a really cool and great game and we can learn a lot thanks to it. It's kind of a borderline between war game and Euro game because to a large extent you have some optimization here, some decision to be made. On the other hand, It's also purely the war game because it has all those, you know, units, fights, attacks. And I love the components, how they are created. It's only, you know, the preview copy, in final copy will be even nicer. And also the mechanics of taking the terrain versus front lines. This is something which is really close to my heart. So guys, thank you very much for being with me. Below this video, you will be able to find the link to the Gamefront campaign. Definitely go there, check it, and if you are interested in this topic, in this game, support it. That's all from me. Thank you very much for being with me. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this material, do not hesitate, give thumbs up. If you like to comment, ask, or simply share some information, use the section below, the comment section. Thank you once again, and thanks for watching.